as coaches, we're like, I'm so proud of you. When the reality is the focus should be on helping our clients feel proud of themselves, because otherwise they're just motivated to make us proud. And then they don't check in with you and they have a rough week, right? Or they don't share when things are going wrong, or they start lying on their trackers because they don't want you to know the real story because they're so attached to your pride in them.
All right. Are we ready for the first question?
Let's do it.
Elle asked, I don't know how to word this question, but I have a client that doesn't have support from anyone in her circle. Her husband and family don't support her, and it affects her weekly. How do I get her past that when she is so heavily influenced?
Social support is a really big thing. We all know this at face value, but research also supports that really heavily when it comes to behavior change. So there's like two things we can talk about here. One is that you definitely need to feel confident in communicating with your clients in a certain way. There's a certain way to do this in the best way. Communicating with your clients that because they want to make changes to their life, because they want to do something for themselves, doesn't mean the other people in their life have to do that too. Doesn't mean the other people in their life have to agree with that. And there is discomfort in that for sure. But a big part of behavior change is discomfort tolerance and being able to work with our clients through discomfort tolerance and helping them get more comfortable with the uncomfortable. Actually, did the podcast go up yet? Not yet, Taylor. I have a discomfort tolerance specific podcast episode that's coming out soon. It's got to be soon. I feel like I looked at that a while ago. So that's something that it's a term like discomfort tolerance, but also there's a lot of other pieces to what makes it uncomfortable, right? And why can we not tolerate that discomfort, which is where then we could get into, and you could think about this for this client if you wanted to go this route with them. What makes that uncomfortable? What emotions are coming up for them? What are the pros and cons? And thinking about it from a mindset perspective, is there some beliefs that are being held onto that if I don't have the support from them, that I won't be able to do it, or that if I'm doing the things that are not in alignment with the things that they want or they want to do, that's going to like exile me from the friend group. Like it can really feel that way because we're biologically wired to want to be and stay part of like the tribe, caveman, cavewoman brains that we still have. If we feel like we're not being part of the group or doing something different than the group, and the group being like your friends, your family, all of that stuff, it can quite literally to our brain signal like you're unsafe and you may die. I know that sounds really intense, but that's really what's going on. It all comes down to survival. So you can kind of like ask some questions and go that direction and try to uncover what's actually going on beneath the surface. But at the same time, we want to normalize this, that we do need social support and we do really seek that. And if we're feeling like we're not getting support from the people that matter most to us, that's not going to feel good. So like normalizing the situation while also getting to the point where if those people are not giving you that support, where else can you find it? Like, obviously they hired you as a coach. Is there a conversation that has not been had yet? And I think so often, you guys might be able to agree with me with this and have seen it in other capacities with your clients, where there's so much like expectation that our clients are seeking from like the other people in their lives when they're going through these changes. And there's like an assumption that a conversation has been had when it hasn't. So how often we're thinking, wow, why can't this person just like support me? Or why don't they understand? Or like, why are they making this so much harder for me? But has your client ever actually had a conversation with those people in their lives? Like, what would happen if this client went to these people that she feels like she's not receiving support from? I think it was husband was one of them, and said, hey, husband, this is something that's incredibly important to me. And you're part of my support system. And I really can't do this without you. Like, I really need you to be on my side. And here's what that looks like. I would freaking hope husband would respond positively to that. Like, can you imagine being married to someone who's like, fuck the things that you want to do and how you want to make yourself better? Like, that's a conversation for a different time. But I think the biggest part is usually not the fact that husband is unsupportive. It's that conversation has never been had with husband. So it's just the assumption that the communication has happened and it hasn't yet, or that they should just know. So it's possible husband has no idea that he's being unsupportive, right? Like, or even impacting her negatively. You know, he's just going on with his life as she's going on with her life and he thinks everything's fine. So some things to think about there. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of this client and the situation, but those could be some good paths to take, and likely in combination too.
Go right to Audrey's comment because it is with this.
Would something like telling their partner's support system how to support them be helpful? Yeah. I think you were probably typing that as I said that. And guys, this goes for relationships in general, right? With like your friendships, with your partners, with like, I got my team members on this call, right? If I were just like expecting them to show up some way or be responsible for certain things without saying, these are the things you're responsible for, and here's the expectation we have, then I can't be upset if those things don't happen, you know? So absolutely, I think that and you could totally support her with the delivery of this, and maybe even start the conversation with her first of what would good support look like to you? Like, what does that look like coming from your husband, coming from your friend, like the different people? Like, what are you looking for? And then you could ask, like, have you actually asked for that? Have you had a conversation around that? I think there's a lot of power in, and this could be, you guys could take this for yourself, or this is something that you could then deliver to your clients and they could do this with their people too. But there's a lot of power in going to the people who are close to you and you have strong relationships with, going to them and saying, I need you with this. And they likely want to show up for you. They want to do those things. They want to be supportive of you. So it's just a matter of like communicating that and actually making it known. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Okay. Jillian asked, I have a client who consistently tells me that she is missing meals, parentheses, working on building up to BMR. Through my questioning, she attributes this to an emotional week and being unprepared. What are some further guiding questions that I could ask?
Okay. Missing meals and attributing it to external forces. Okay. I think, so this is interesting because I wish I could talk to Jillian about this, because the truth is, Jillian, when you're watching this, there is, at least to me from this one question that I'm hearing from Kira, right? An assumption being made that like this is the thing that she knows is causing it. It sounds like she has brought up these things as the cause. Oh my God, is that Jillian right now?
I was just going to say, ask and you shall receive.
Oh my goodness.
Jillian, we were literally just getting to your question about your client who skips meals and blames it on emotional week and being unprepared. We're literally just starting, and Kasey said the words, I wish Jillian was here so I could ask her about this. And now you are here. I don't know if you can come off mute, but hopefully you can at least put something in the chat.
Can come off mute, yes.
Amazing. Okay, so my follow-up question for you, what I started to say was, like, I would love to know from you if this is more of like an assumption that you're making that it's emotional week. And what was the other thing? It's hard when I don't have these questions in front of me.
Being underprepared.
Underprepared and emotional.
Yeah.
Were those things she said directly, this is the reason why I was missing meals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. She was explaining how she had just some things going on in her personal life and just didn't prepare. So yes, she said them specifically.
Is this a pattern that you see frequently with her? Or was this like
the emotional comment? No, but the being unprepared, it's kind of consistent pattern. Like each week she's like, yeah, I prep for a few days. And then by the time the weekend comes, I'm just not prepared. And it's kind of consistent.
Okay.
And I do ask her, I'm like, hey, like, what do you think would help you be a little more prepared? And we try to come up with strategies together, but.
Okay. And that just hasn't worked so far?
Not yet.
Okay. When you do that, she comes up with strategies and you guys decide on, okay, this is the next move. what happens?
She'll usually say something like, the week just got to me, it got busy. So she'll make a goal. She'll say, okay, I'm going to prepare meals, 3 meals per day on Sunday for like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then come Wednesday, I'm going to prepare for the rest of the week because she doesn't like to do it all at once. Totally fine. And then come Wednesday, she's just like, I got really busy and I didn't prioritize it. And she does acknowledge like she knows she's not prioritizing it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think, gosh, there's so many places we could go with this. Obviously, like the emotional part is interesting, but that's like, seems like it's somewhat separate, but I would almost ask her if she feels like the unpreparedness and lack of prioritization is linked to the emotional component. Like, is it like when she has emotional weeks or like stressful weeks, whatever that thing is for her, is that when she feels like she doesn't have time to be prepared? Or if there's like a connection between those things, because I think that could reveal a lot, just like her answer to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, that would be very interesting to know. And then also, it's like, it's very clear, I think probably to you and to me and to everybody listening to this, that we probably should stop trying to expect that we're going to have time on Wednesday, right?
Yes.
So, but we don't want to necessarily say that to her. However, you can reflect things back to her. And like, this is something we talk a lot about in HMCC with like motivational interviewing, is using this like reflection strategy. And you could quite literally, or kind of like repeating back in your own words what she has said to you. And you could say, so it sounds like you can be prepared if you do it on Sunday. And by the time Wednesday comes around, other things come up that are more of a priority. I know that sounds like you're just saying exactly what she said. I would even pull out the "it sounds like" and just say, so on Sundays you have time to prepare, but by the time Wednesday rolls around, it's not a priority anymore. And just say that, because we don't even want this to be like a yes, no. Like, do your best to, like, however you can phrase that based on what makes sense for you in your coaching, to make it an open-ended thing, or just like a statement, not a question even, so that she has to respond back. Because like, chances are she's not going to she's going to look at that and go, yeah, and because, and other things, or like give you more information that will paint the picture even better. Or she may come back and say, yeah, I should probably stop trying to do this on Wednesdays. And you could simply say, so what is the alternative? You know, I also would be curious to, like, thinking about if she's missing meals and it's mainly because she has nothing prepped come Wednesday, like, what's the minimum effective dose is like what I'm thinking. Like, how could we go to her and say, yeah, she's prepping. God, I wouldn't want to prep 3, 6, 9 meals for 3 days. Is she missing lunches? Like, what's the hardest meal for her that she really needs prepped? You know, like, what if this was like, instead of prepping all 3 meals for 3 days, what would it look like if you just prepped breakfast and lunch for 4 to 5 days?
Okay. Yeah. Giving her that option.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering too, as we're talking and I'm thinking about it, like, I know she's straight up mentioned her words that she's felt like discouraged because she acknowledges she knows she's missing some meals and missing some meal prep, and she's felt discouraged. So I'm wondering if asking for, like, if that kind of plays into the planning process as well, like not feeling she's on top of it. However, I will say she sent me progress photos and she's collaged them and she was like, oh my God, I am making changes. So maybe there's a little shift coming up.
That's
Fingers
great.
crossed.
That's great, because that will really help with the discouragement or any like fixed mindset around it. Like, the more we can show our clients, or have, not necessarily show them, even like help them see their own progress, whether that is like body composition or otherwise, the more you're going to just cultivate a growth mindset and belief that they're actually capable of doing stuff. So I think also, what you can tell me, this client, was there a time in the not too distant past where she was not prepping meals at all?
Yes. Yeah. Like a month, 6 weeks ago, we started working them together, I think about 6 weeks ago. So like, I acknowledge, and exactly. And I do acknowledge that with her, but it's a consistent comment she's making. So I'm like, okay, let's work through this. So I do give
Yeah.
her that reinforcement of like, girl, you have completely switched everything up and around, and you're building that progress. It just takes time. You've never done this before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, okay, so even prepping for meals for more than half the week,
Exactly.
6 weeks, like that's huge progress. So like, it sounds like you're saying that to her, which is good. And now she's getting some like visible,
Yes.
obvious, tangible results from that. What you could do with that too, especially if she just like sent that to you, is say, what do you think is going to make it possible for you to see just as much progress in the next 6 weeks?
Perfect. I love that.
Yeah. So now she's now obviously going to reflect on some of the things that you guys have been talking about and maybe present some different solutions and have like a renewed sense of like things are working and be
Mhm.
a little bit more bought into everything. I would even just like ask her, the fact it's only been 6 weeks and you're seeing so much progress and you've made so many changes to your behaviors, like how does that make you feel? Because we really want to hone in on the like, especially with the emotional pieces that she was mentioning before, really hone in and attach good feelings to these changes and what she's doing, because that will also allow her to stay more motivated, bring her down to like the better types of motivation on the spectrum. Yeah. I think this is a good
Perfect.
start. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck.
Okay, this one is from Elle.
I have a client that is so focused on losing kilograms that she doesn't ever celebrate small wins. We've made progress in so many other ways and are on the right track, but she thinks progress is too slow. I'm always celebrating the small wins for her, but she doesn't feel like it's an accomplishment. How can we shift this laser focus on losing the kilos? Okay. So part of this is definitely just like expectation setting, and Elle, and for everybody else, like we definitely talked about this during the coaching code calls, which you guys have access to forever. I think it was on day 2. We talked about like even creating some sort of expectation agreement. And this can be part of that, that you're letting them know at the forefront that there are other indicators of progress that indicate long-term results that aren't just kilos, pounds, body composition changes, and have them recognize, sign off on it, have those conversations at the beginning, that those things are what we're looking for too. So they're kind of like going into the coaching relationship being like, okay, I'm looking for those things as well. Obviously, people want to lose weight. People want to change their body composition, and there isn't necessarily anything wrong with that unless it's being attached to other things, which actually, Taylor, podcast episode, there is one on, oh, this would actually be really good for you, Elle. Clients like hyper focus on the scale, something like that. I don't remember the exact title. So there's nothing inherently wrong with it so long as it's getting attached to some of these other things too. And it's not just attached to negative body image or external factors, whatever. So it's like, it's not that we get rid of this goal and we don't get rid of the focus on this goal, but it's also how do we also stay just as laser focused on the other things too in combination. So expectation setting, yes, she thinks progress is too slow. I mean, that's definitely a conversation you should have of like, what kind of progress are you expecting, right? Or like, what is the client's expectation? And trying to better understand what she's actually looking for versus like you as a coach might be like, this is fine progress, but you need to really be like the researcher on your client to better understand where they're coming from, because that will also inform just like your communication strategies and what you're doing and what you're bringing up. Another piece here too is like, I am always celebrating the small wins for her. That in and of itself is the problem too. So I talk about this in HMCC, like, please don't get hung up on this specifically, but how often as coaches, we're like, I'm so proud of you, when the reality is the focus should be on helping our clients feel proud of themselves, because otherwise they're just motivated to make us proud and do good by us And that becomes a really big issue when there's a rough week and things don't go to plan, because now it's, well, I'm not really in this for myself. I'm in this to make my coach proud because she's so proud of me and she tells me when she's proud of me and I can't not have that. And then they don't check in with you and they have a rough week, right? Or they don't share when things are going wrong, or they start lying on their trackers because they don't want you to know the real story because they're so attached to your pride in them. So really thinking more about when you're communicating with this client, how often are you like trying to push look at how great you're doing. I'm so proud of you. This is like what you are doing, all of this stuff. When the reality is we should maybe be asking more questions around those things and how she feels about it, and guiding her to recognize her own progress and seeing that, rather than just telling her good job. So that's definitely something to consider, but yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay, next one is from Jillian.
When a client feels hectic with taking messy action and also making progress, I noticed she tends to focus on her worries or frustrations and does not take a second to truly acknowledge the progress even after a month. Some of the stuff we just talked about might be good here, Jillian. Anywho, she also is finding difficulty incorporating her kids, not picky, but they don't want repetitive meals for dinner, for example. Instead of giving her suggestions, what kind of guiding questions could I ask to provide some more autonomy? Good question. Okay. She focuses on her worries or frustrations, acknowledging progress. We kind of talked about that. So hopefully there's something you could take away there. As humans, we have a negativity bias. So again, caveman, cavewoman brains, it's a survival mechanism. Pay attention to the things that are dangerous and not good and don't feel good, because that could mean we won't survive. Like that's what our brains are doing. So that's actually something you could take to her and say, I've noticed a pattern of like focus on like worries and frustrations, which is totally fair because that's your brain just trying to protect you. It also gives us a lot of information about like how you're feeling and what's going on. With that said, we do need to kind of work on rewiring our brains and our focus to be on the things that are going well. Like I think I talked about this in the coaching code. Like we kind of suck at recognizing our own wins. And the goal is to help our clients do that, like suck less at that, right? And you could say that's just very normal human behavior, but it's not really productive. So, and this is again, like a question you could just simply ask her, like if she's like also noticed that pattern, if that shows up in other parts of her life, like if we were to not be talking about just health and fitness behaviors in other situations at work, with parenting, things like that, does she notice these same patterns coming up? And that might be a good way for her to just start like linking stuff together. I bet she starts to bring some things up or like notice some things about herself, build some awareness, which is really, really like the first step to everything. And yeah, I think that might be a good start in combination with some of the other stuff that I talked about with Elle's question. And when it comes to the kids not wanting repetitive meals for dinner, I mean, yeah, a simple question just could be like, what are the alternatives to not having repetitive meals for your kids and still cooking meals that are supportive for your health and fitness goals? Because it can be an and, it doesn't have to be an either or. And I think that that's so often how we think. And again, human brains, let me tell you, just trying to make sense of things. Like that's what we're doing all the time, all day. We're trying to make sense of things in front of us. So trying to make sense of this, like, okay, it can either be this or it can either be that, and like categorizing things and trying to make it black and white, like all or nothing type of thing. And the reality is it doesn't have to be an either or, it can be an and. We just got to get creative on what the and looks like. So maybe present it to her that way and see what she starts to come up with and what conversations come out of that.
Would it be helpful to ask her to like maybe look for some of her own, instead of me giving her some recipes, for example, right? Because she, again, busy mom and all of that. So maybe like find some recipes and ask me like how they look or something like that. Like, because she's all for like, okay, maybe I'll just eat something separate. I'm fine with that. But she wants to incorporate her kids because that's important to her, obviously. So that's kind of, I think, where she just feels chaotic with it.
Yeah. I almost wonder too, it's like, this is more like nutrition coach hat is on, like with these meals. And it sounds like she doesn't want it, or her kids don't want it to be repetitive, but she doesn't care, right? Like, is there a way to make a repeat meal, but it's slightly different? Like, I'm even thinking about my own self. Like, I'm basically eating the same things every single day, but with a different sauce, a different spice, different type of condiment, like slightly different thing. It's in a tortilla, now it's not. Stuff like that. And I wonder if like they're kids, like maybe that's enough to switch it up. And she may be thinking it needs to be entirely different. Like she's almost making assumptions for her kids, but maybe it doesn't have to be. It can be slightly different. And that makes it easier for her. And she can eat it as repetitive as she wants, but just add some sort of like changes to it for the kiddos. Obviously, this is me now like coming up with solutions and suggestions, right? So what you can do though, if you feel like that's something that might land or could be part of the conversation, you could say, I have this idea, not sure if it's something that would actually make sense or work, but this is what my brain is coming up with on the just nutrition behavior side of things. What do you think? And you could even say like, feel free to tell me if this is like totally off base. So now there's still autonomy in that. And it's still not assuming the expert role on your client's life, but you're still able to provide like an optional solution. Same thing goes for the recipes. Like if you want, I'd be happy to send you some recipes that have my other clients like, or that I've used that are relatively easy, but are still like switching it up for the kids. But ultimately that may not be the actual solution here. So I'll attach some of those recipes, but I would love to know if you actually think recipes are the problem. So again, it's like, here's this, but also let's go deeper. Let me know if I'm wrong. Autonomy supportive type of situation. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that would be super helpful. And she's receptive to like all of my suggestions too, but I'm trying to pull back with her if it's consistent. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, there's ways to still provide solutions and provide suggestions without it being just I'm telling my clients what to do all the time. And that's like a really great way to do it, is just like kind of sandwich it with like, I don't actually know if this is going to work for you at all, and ending with like, please tell me if I'm off base or what you think of this, or if you have another idea after you read this, so it's still like getting their gears turning. You're still providing them with information and ideas, but you're not making the assumption that that's what they need.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, next one is from Audrey. Take one.
Okay, here's my first question. How would you go about educating clients in the difference between fixed versus growth mindset? Would you show them the chart and be like, do any of these resonate with you? How do we help them identify where they fall? Okay, this is actually trickier than you may think, because if a client is stuck in a fixed mindset and they are presenting the symptoms of that, then we don't necessarily want to just go tell them that they have a fixed mindset, because that's not going to help. I don't think that this is actually a situation of, here's the difference between a growth and fixed mindset. Like, what do you think you are? Because again, someone with a fixed mindset, it may have a fixed mindset about their mindset, and therefore say like, oh, I don't know, like, I think I have a pretty strong growth mindset, even though you're like, I don't think so. So in other situations, like when we're talking about stages of change or different types of motivation, you can do something like that and showcase like, here's all the different stages, here's all the different types of motivation, like which ones do you think you fall in more, can get a good conversation going, because it's less threatening than the fixed versus growth mindset conversation. Actually, in HMCC, when we talk about this, we go over it in a way, what do I call it? Threat mode versus learning mode. And so the goal is to help clients get more into learning mode and less into threat mode. So even just calling it something different, right, can sometimes be helpful. But in the worksheets, we talk about like, it's a worksheet you can give to your clients, and they go through this worksheet and it helps them identify when they're in threat mode versus learning mode, like when that happens, like what that looks like. And then you have an interpretation guide to go through and be like, okay, now I can understand like where the fixed mindset is maybe coming from, where it's showing up and why. So I think for your case, Audrey, instead, it's more up to you, your responsibility as the coach, to be identifying the fixed mindset in your clients through their language, through different exercises with them, things like I was just talking about, obviously be an HMCC to get that worksheet, and then adjust your strategy and ask questions around some of those things. For example, if this client is saying, I've never been the type of person to track macros. I'm just thinking of something here. That is an indicator of a fixed mindset belief. So instead of saying that's a fixed mindset belief, you would say, that's really interesting that you say that you've never been the type of person to track macros. Like, what would it require to be that type of person? And how is that different from who you are? Because then now we're getting into like identity and stuff too, right? So more so, the goal would be to be identifying mindset in your clients and then doing something with that versus having them get there. And when it comes to, like you said, how do you help them identify where they fall? You could still get there by presenting some of this stuff, and they start to talk about their beliefs like, oh, I've tried tracking macros so many times before and it's just never worked for me, and so I don't think I'm the type of person to do it. And you could ask them, is there any other variables that were at play at those different times that maybe made it harder for you? Like, humor me for a second. What if it has nothing to do with who you are as a person, has everything to do with just like the methods that you were using? Not to say we have to track macros, but like, let's dive into this a little bit because it means something that you said that. And then they will start to recognize, whether they call it fixed mindset or not, ultimately doesn't matter. They will start to recognize where their beliefs are holding them back and the things that they are attaching themselves to from past situations that are now affecting them now. And that is the secret sauce. Obviously, if you guys have any questions, feel free, reach out anytime. I appreciate you so much. Obviously, couldn't do anything that I do without you. So thank you.